Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are doing well. Gonna talk about a few things in this video, starting with the next UFC Fight Night event, headlined by Charles Oliveira and Mateusz Gamrot. Initially scheduled to be Charles and Rafael Fiziev, but in typical Rafael Fiziev fashion, he probably just took a stroll downstairs and broke something. He pulled out of the fight, and I'm saying this as a big Rafael Fiziev fan, but these injuries are pissing me off. And then after this UFC Fight Night event, UFC Brazil, we have Janeiro versus, yes, Anthony Hernandez, no, Brendan Allen. Because Anthony Hernandez also pulled out, also due to injury. So, it's tough. It's tough being a UFC fan. This past weekend makes it easier, but this is horrible because it feels like every single UFC event, people pull out because they're injured. And it's frustrating. Because having seen Gauthier versus Tristan Vines, I'm not saying it would have gone any better if Atiba Gauthier fought Ozzy Diaz, but definitely don't want to see that again. Definitely don't want to see Atiba Gauthier versus Tristan Vines ever again in my life. Because it felt like watching a murder live on television. It felt like I was watching a real life horror movie where the one guy was visibly scared shitless. Now, Tristan Vines will probably be able to beat us all up, right? Because I think he is somewhat, he fought in the UFC. But he circled for a minute straight. And it's not like technical circling where you basically circle and you just want to get into the center of the octagon, re-establish yourself, find range. Brother was just circling, ring around the rosy. He was terrified of Gauthier. Do I blame him? Kind of no, because I would have ran and probably jumped over the fence and said, I ain't getting paid enough for this bullshit. But don't want to see that in my life ever again. Because this is a UFC. This is the biggest mixed martial arts organization in the world. And we have someone's uncle at a cookout fighting Atiba Gauthier in the prelims. So, yeah, it felt like Dana White went to a tailgate in either Philadelphia or Kansas City and was basically just looking around. Who's the drunkest? That guy seems fucking lost. Hey, do you want to fight Atiba Gauthier? That's what it felt like. Don't want to see that happen again. But yeah, it feels like with this next 2 weeks that we're basically just gonna watch it and kind of accept it, kind of just try and weather the storm. Because obviously the big one, UFC 321 with Cyril Gane and Tom Aspinall, I could not express how excited I am for that. But now I have to watch the UFC Brazil card, and I'm not complaining about it, but I kind of am, because we could have had so much more. Probably put Carlos Prates on there. For Jeff Neal, basically didn't take any damage whatsoever. He's Brazilian. Just make it better than what this is. Because Oliveira versus Gamrot main event. Now, that's going to be a banger. But then we have Davison Figueiredo, Montel Jackson, which it will probably be exciting. But then Vicente Luque is taking on Joel Alvarez. And we have some debutants, and I don't know. It feels like the UFC could definitely do better with this. I almost said something wrong. We have a lot of Brazilians in the UFC. A lot of Brazilians that are really good. Put them on here. Paulo Costa, put him on here. People love seeing some Brazilians, right? Some main card worthy Brazilians. And this just feels lackluster, to be honest. But Charles Oliveira taking on Mateusz Gamrot. And this will be the first time we see Charles Oliveira after his devastating, ungodly knockout loss versus the Hobbit Bruce Wayne from Spain, right? Versus Ilia Topuria. Where for the first time in what has felt like forever, We saw Charles Oliveira get knocked out cold, clean. His soul was sent to the Creator, went on a spiritual journey. And, it's tough. But it is also October. He got knocked out in July. A little bit of a quick turnaround, if you ask me. If I was Charles, then I'd probably take another 2 months to ensure that I don't turn into something that is chewing his own shoulder. But Charles Oliveira, a lot of people have speculated that he is actually going to retire after this fight. Now, I don't necessarily think so. I think if Charles was going to retire, I think that he would announce it, right? Kind of do like a Dustin Poirier thing where he says, listen, guys, this will be my last fight. Makes it easier for the UFC to promote it. They give him a video, kind of what they did to Poirier. Everybody will tune in to see Charles one last time. I just don't think that he will retire on the spot, right? Have a fight, do the Paul Craig where he's just, all right, gloves off, I'm done. I'm going to ride off into the sunset. So I don't think this is Charles' last fight. And that is concerning. Because if you got knocked out by Ilya, flush, then if this isn't your last fight, would probably advise you to not take this early. Give your brain time to recover. Alright? And I think the general consensus will be that if Mateusz knocks out Oliveira, which is very unlikely, if that happens, it's probably time to hang him up. It's probably time for Charles to retire. Because I don't think anyone thinks that Charles will reach the top of the lightweight division ever again. Even though it's sad to say, also a Charles fan, really inspirational story from Charles Oliveira and the journey he's had within the UFC. I don't think anyone is betting on Charles Oliveira getting to the top ever again. Because it just feels like with his age, he's on the wrong side of 30. And these young guys, these guys that are hungry, that are just insane, the Almonds of the world, the Paddy Pimlets, Ilya Tuporia, even Gamrot, these guys, if you look at Mauricio Rufy, Benoit Saint-Denis, these are a different breed, cut from a different cloth. Now, I'm not saying Charles Prime versus them in their prime would be interesting. Obviously, we're past prime Charles Oliveira right now. So I think every fight that he's going to have right now is for his legacy, which is easily taintable, if you ask me. No, I didn't say easily paintball, but it doesn't make sense, right? If you would assume that as soon as someone loses the belt, then everything leading up to the belt, right, is kind of legacy fights. Because it's noteworthy fights, it is high level of competition, a lot of massive stakes involving those fights, right, big ones, and that makes sense. However, can you really add to your legacy after not really being in the mix to fight for the lightweight championship? Does that really improve your legacy? I don't tend to think so. But yeah, Charles Oliveira, Mateusz Gamrot this weekend, it's going to be a good fight. Charles had problems because obviously Mateusz Gamrot is a wrestler, predominantly Rafael Fiziev with his Muay Thai stance, predominantly a striker. Now Charles had to somewhat adjust relatively close to the fight. Mateusz Gamrot was training, didn't have a camp. Okay, so Mateusz is the one that is in fact taking a big risk. Because if Charles loses to a younger, I'd say right now a better Mateusz Gamrot, then we'll just say, well, kind of expected it. We kind of saw this coming. He got knocked out in July. He already has a built-in excuse. If Gamrot loses, it kind of sets him back because you would assume Gamrot still has title aspirations, still wants to become the lightweight champion of the UFC. So it feels like Gamrot is taking a massive risk and in accepting this fight. But it just shows who is willing to kind of lay their balls on the line for this. Who is willing to take risks, because this what Gamrot's doing is really, fans really appreciate when a fighter is doing this, because it shows a willingness to compete, to improve, to climb up the rankings. It's kind of the exact opposite of what Arman Tsarukyan is doing by just, I don't know, laying on his queen size bed in a posh mansion with a bunch of beddies and just waiting for a title shot, cause that's some bitch shit. And Mateusz Gamrot not doing that, wanting to stay active, fought Ludovic Klein, impressive victory over Ludovic Klein, and now wants to fight Oliveira, stay active. It's a lot to appreciate. So I think it's gonna be interesting. I think it's gonna be a good fight. But honestly, this card feels a little bit underwhelming. I think the UFC could have done better, but no, that's probably why I'm not running the UFC. Then also something I want to talk about, Jiri Prochazka. This past weekend, his victory over Khalil Rountree was genuinely insane. If you didn't see it, Jiri Prochazka did a holy cross prior to hit the finishing sequence against Khalil Rountree. Now, if you are trying to convert someone to Christianity, I would advise you show them that scene, because it was erection sustained moment, and if I've ever seen one. Jiri Prochazka basically acknowledging and putting it in God's hands of what is going to happen next. It's like he's preparing to either kill or be killed. And then, luckily for Jiri, or not luckily, but, Jiri killed. So that was insane. What I want to talk about, though, is Jiri is such an odd figure within the UFC, right? He looks at conventional things and basically urinates on it. He doesn't do the conventional thing, the fundamental things. He basically looks at it the same way you would look at a user manual. It doesn't exist for him. Okay, because we saw Khalil Rountree, also a Muay Thai fighter, basically go to Tiger Muay Thai and work on the fundamentals, this art called Muay Thai, and really try and hone his skills and be this insane figure and fighter with insane speed, with really good technique, really good fundamentals. And then Jiri Prochazka is running through the forest to train, shouting at mountains, probably chopping wood with a samurai sword, doesn't give a piss about preparation. That's his preparation. It's just being a Donnie. Jiri, what did you do today? Did you train? Yes, I did train. I followed the train. 5 miles. He doesn't care. He doesn't care whatsoever. It's like, okay, what does it feel like my body needs? My body needs me to run through the woods, scream at mountains, and just be a stud. Alright, makes sense. It's insane. Jiri Prochazka is insane. And it's kind of sad that he is in the same era as Alex Pereira. Because honestly, Jiri Prochazka deserves the world. And honestly, I think if we gave it to him, he wouldn't want it. But he's insane. The way that he conducts himself, never says a bad thing about anyone, it seems like. Invited the woman with cancer to come watch his fights. He's just an easy guy to root for. A genuine Donnie. And it kind of sucks that, and I'm a massive Alex fan, right? Massive Jiri fan as well. Kind of sucks that Jiri is fighting in the same era as Alex. Now, it kind of feels like Covington versus Usman, where Colby Covington would have been champion. He was genuinely the best welterweight on planet Earth if Kamaru Usman played tennis. Now, luckily for Jiri, he already became champion within the light heavyweight division, so it's not quite the same. But it kind of sucks because it feels like he deserves more, he deserves better. So, yeah. Do I see him beating Alex? I just don't. I just don't, because Alex has insane power. We saw Jiri eat Khalil Rountree's shots as if it was a buffet of, I don't even know what Jiri eats, but I would assume raw chicken, and basically just farts out salmonella and it doesn't affect them. But he was eating Khalil's shots. Like Khalil was a lightweight. Like it didn't bother him at all. And if you want to beat Yuri, you will probably need either Alex's hands. So whoever fights Yuri next, try and ask Alex, could you maybe like take them and kind of use them? Or you should probably walk in with a gun. Because I don't think you're getting rid of Yuri. And if Yuri doesn't respect your striking, he will do exactly what he did to Khalil Roundtree. Just ungodly things. Which is kind of ironic. But yeah, it kind of sucks. So in one way, I want Alex Pereira to go up to heavyweight and vacate the light heavyweight belt, because then you get Jiri Prochazka be champion. Everyone's happy. The world's happy. World peace solved. But also, kind of want Alex to stay at light heavyweight, beat a couple of guys, then move to heavyweight. So I'm kind of in between two thoughts of what I want. And speaking about Alex, the last thing that I quickly want to touch on is I think Alex should probably fight Carlos next. And I'm not opposed to Alex going to heavyweight fighting Tom Aspinall, because that fight would feed the entire world, right? That would be insane, especially stylistically, seeing Alex, a kickboxer, one of the best kickboxers we've seen within the UFC, take on someone like Aspinall, who is all round just incredible. The best all round heavyweight we've seen in a long time, right? With regards to his speed and striking, his grappling, his wrestling, and just he looks insane. Tom Aspinall looks like the real deal, and has been looking like the real deal for a long time now. And I think stylistically that would be interesting. Whether would Alex be able to avoid the wrestling, to avoid the grappling, and basically have this fight play out on his terms? Or would Tom Aspinall basically just do what he said, run towards Alex Pereira whenever the bell goes off, fight starts, he runs towards Alex, and then basically just rugby tackles him and maul him? So that is interesting. But I do think that for now, Alex should stay at light heavyweight and kind of put a stamp, an exclamation mark on everything. Fight Ulberg. Ulberg is a worthy number one contender. He's been on a good streak, knocked out Dominic Reyes in emphatic fashion. Genuinely think he deserves a title fight. And then I think Yuri should fight Magomed Ankalaev, have that fight. I think that would be interesting as well, because they haven't fought before. It's something new, it's something fresh, and they both fought on the same card. So timing wise, it would make sense. But yeah, I think Alex should fight Carlos Ulberg. Obviously, Tommy's gonna fight Cyril Gane. Tom's gonna beat Cyril Gane. So if you want to make money, that's an easy way to do it. And then after he beats Carlos Ulberg, then we can somewhat see and take a look at what we want next, right? The UFC White House card is a big thing, and they're marketing it already to be a big thing. So then you can have Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira on that card for the heavyweight championship of the UFC. You can market the shit out of that. Alex Pereira could potentially become the first ever 3-division champion within the UFC. Tom Aspinall could probably become one of the best heavyweights, if not the best heavyweight of all time. Not with that win, but just trajectory and what he's been able to accomplish. So you could really market that. But I do think Carlos should get a shot first. The other option, Alex vacates the belt at light heavyweight, and then we have Ulberg versus Jiri Prochazka for the vacant belt. I'm also a massive, fat proponent of that. I think that would be insane. But let me know, what are your thoughts? Should Alex fight Tom Aspinall immediately? If you say that we need a trilogy between Alex and Magomed Ankalaev, stop sleeping with your cousin. It is damaging your brain. No one wants to see that. There was an emphatic end to that fight. Okay? Magomed Ankalaev got dog walked. Got the brakes beat off of him. Doesn't deserve a trilogy. Right? He can fight someone else and build himself up once again. But would you want to see Alex Pereira versus Tom Aspinall? Or would you want to see Alex Pereira versus Carlos Ulberg? Or, talking about trilogies, Yuri deserves one. I don't care whether the first two was a wash. Don't give a shit. It's different. Because every single person apart from Alex is losing to Jiri Prochazka. We don't know whether that is the same for Magomed Ankalaev. He hasn't fought Jamal Hill, hasn't fought Khalil Roundtree, hasn't fought Yuri, got a draw against Jan Blachowicz because he basically got kicked into Oscar Pistorius. Legs didn't work. Magomed Ankalaev versus whoever. Yuri versus Carlos Ulberg for the vacant belt. World peace. I solved it. Let me know in the comment section. I would really appreciate it. Have a beautiful day. Don't sleep on the 97 Republic. Don't sleep with your cousin. Cheers.